Hello. I brought the testimony just because I thought if you wanted to follow along with it. Because I did bring a lot of things.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
I didn't want to just read them all, so I figured people could listen to it. So thank you, Chairman Keeble. Thank you, committee, for staying so late. I know these nights get really long. I just want to I'm not going to reiterate a lot of what was said because there's many things that are in my testimony that were already said, but there's a couple things that I do want to point out. One is that between 2014 and 2015, there was actually an increase in the number of gun fatalities in Rhode Island of over 56%. So there were 36 in 2014, and there was 49 in 2015, and then that number stayed relatively high at 46. That's a huge number, a huge percentage increase in the number of deaths. And so I know we talk about the state having good gun laws and being safe, but the numbers of deaths increasing is definitely something that I think is a concern for us. And I put some information in here about the Heller decision. We've talked about that, so I'm not going to mention that. But the other thing is if you look at this sheet here, on this blue sheet, on the back of it, one of the things that Rhode Island is an outlier on many of these laws, and part of the reason why we, as our coalition and as just a community member, why I'm concerned about guns is just because some of our laws are not up to par with our neighbors. And I think that if you look at Massachusetts, it has the lowest gun death rate in the country, and it has good reason for it. And the good reason is that they've had very strong gun laws. They have banned assault weapons since 2004 when the federal ban ended. We are only asking in Rhode Island just to limit the magazines to 10. We're not talking about banning them, and I think that there's by not having them, it just definitely it helps keep people alive. You asked about concealed carry on school grounds. We're one of only 2 states in New England that allows it. The other states do not. New York, Mass, and Connecticut have banned, as we said, the high-capacity magazines. But the most important thing that I want to talk about, so I have here, one of the things about the statistics is there's just not that much information that's available because we don't keep any federal data because, years ago there was a federal law that the CDC cannot spend any money on gun violence research. So there's not a lot of data available, but they do this. What I have attached is the firearm mortality rate by state, so just so you have it. And for some reason, they only had 2005, 14, and 15, so it just gives you an idea of the numbers. And the 2005 number is pretty similar to what the 2014 number is, so the jump in 2015 and 2016 is pretty significant. But what I know we've mentioned the poll before, and so that was the thing I wanted to just talk about a little bit. I know Nan had given you the poll. But I included the complete poll just so you can see all the information. There's a summary on the front sheet, and I just wanted to explain the poll just a little bit because this isn't just a push poll that was done. This is a live person poll. There's over 500 people that were called in Rhode Island last year. It gives you the dates there. I think it was in March and April. 605 people were spoken to, and that's a pretty big sample. Like I just saw a recent national poll that the AP did, and there was 900 people that they spoke to. So 600 is a pretty big sample for our state. And if you look at there's a summary, and they have the two different bars. Like the one says support prior to getting information, and one support after acquiring new information. The questions are listed for you, so you can see exactly what the questions were that were asked of the respondents. And I think that if you look at the third question, which is, it's actually the 8th question, it says, okay, the question was, how do you feel about restricting concealed carry guns in elementary schools except by law enforcement, resource officers, and retired law enforcement? And you can see the number was 78% of the people that responded to that agree, were very or somewhat felt strongly about that position. So then what they would do is they would, the next question would give more information about the specific law and the specific bill that we've been talking about. So you can see that they say today in Rhode Island, anyone with concealed carry permit can bring a gun to a classroom, blah, 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 blah. Now, how do you feel about it? And then this sample went up to 82%. So all the numbers that you see in here were done on a statewide basis, and we've been quoting some of these numbers in the back few pages to give you all the other statistics on it. And the reason we've been quoting the numbers is just because they are significant, and we know that Rhode Island has less than 20% gun ownership rate, and we know that states that have low ownership and also have strong laws have less deaths. And so we're just trying to get our laws that are in line with what our neighboring states are doing. This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. All of these laws that we're asking for are certainly laws that can be passed, and we have gun laws on the books. It's not like we can't make gun laws in Rhode Island, but we've done it. So I just, I don't want to, I'm not going to beat a dead horse and go through this, but these statistics, 92% of Rhode Islanders agree with the domestic violence bill that Teresa Tanzi has put in. 82% believe that we should not have concealed carry permit holders on school property, and 75% believe that we should reduce the number of magazines to no more than 10 rounds. So I just wanted to give you that information. I'm happy to answer any questions on it, and don't want to take up any more time.
Representative
Yes.
Bella Wilkinson.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Lindsey. Just a couple of quick questions with regards to the poll.
Yep.
So you had indicated that it was 600 voters, but I'm looking on page 1, it says 400 voters. Which number is correct, please?
Let's see here.
It says a random statewide survey of Rhode Island registered voters conducted with a target sample of 400 voters. So I'm just checking to see what the actual number was.
So they might have called, so maybe the 605, that's a good question. I don't know. I'll find the answer to the question. I was always told 600, so I don't know what the 400 is.
Do you know what the age variance was?
It's in the back. It's listed on the back sheet. It tells you some of the age. So if you look on page 3 on the back there, it tells you the age. Some people didn't answer, obviously. So 31, 30 and younger, 31, 30 to 41. So it's a pretty, more of them are over age 50.
Okay.
But it is a, kind of a spread. Do you see it there?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And how were you say that it was random. I'm looking at the numbers with regards to the municipality. It looks like the bulk of it, you have 159 in Providence, 314, it says total. A lot of the numbers, 84 in Cranston, and a lot of the other towns and cities looks like.
Well, Providence has primarily most of our population, so
right.
that has a higher number. And then, I know they tried to do it so that it was spread out geographically, but I can't give you a specific. I can find out, how they tried to make the calls, but I know they tried to do it based upon the geographic.
What was the organization that conducted the poll?
It's called Princeton Associates. It's on the, if you look on the, sorry, I kind of put two together. So it's Princeton Research Associates. If you go on to the Nate Silver's 538, they have a B+ rating. They're a legit survey company. They've been around for many years.
Oh, good. Okay. And then is your contact information someplace in the packet in case I have follow-up questions?
You know what? I think...
Or if I could get your card sometime afterwards, just in case I have follow-on questions.
I didn't put it on there, but I can...
Connect maybe after your testimony? Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anybody? I realized that when it was printed, some of the information might have come off the headings, so if they have... I can try to... if there's something that you can't figure out, just let me know.
When was this poll done?
It was last year.
And so isn't it fair to say that the reason there's so many people from Cranston is because the Speaker of the House is from Cranston?
Yeah, I think they did try to...
So doesn't that show bias in the...
Well, actually, the Cranston voters were actually higher percentage than the regular rest of the state, so...
Yeah, not unsurprising. I mean, when you ask a question, a follow-up question, like, for example, let's just read one of them. Here's the follow-up question on guns in schools. So this is if somebody was not inclined to be supportive of the coalition's position. Today in Rhode Island, anyone with a concealed carry permit can bring a gun to a classroom, any school function, parent-teacher conferences, or even sports venues. Guns are prohibited at the State House, courthouses, and any other sensitive buildings, and the vast majority of states prohibit guns in elementary schools. Now, how strongly would you support limiting concealed guns in elementary schools to law enforcement officers, resource officers, and retired law enforcement officers? I appreciate the poll, but the poll is biased. I mean, that's a loaded question.
Is any of that information not factual, though?
I know, but you could write a question a different way, former Representative Finn. And that's my only point. So I appreciate the poll for what it is.
We're trying to have poll questions. We're trying to relate directly to the bills that were being introduced.
I understand, but the questions were asked with bias. They clearly were. So that's my only position, my only point.
If I could.
Yes, Vice Chair McEntee.
I would just like to say, Mr. Chairman, that there's only 4% difference in those two questions, and generally polling says they're 5% off anyway.
Yeah,
So,
what's the original?
So it's really- it was 78.
But the original
and it
question.
went up to 82. It really didn't change much.
But the original question is restricting carrying concealed guns in elementary schools except by law enforcement resource officers and retired law enforcement officers. You're sitting at your home, at your kitchen table, you get this call. How are you going to respond to that? Now, if someone had sat through this hearing, not any of us, because virtually everybody here has an opinion one way or another. But if we forced 400 random Rhode Islanders to sit through this hearing and hear the back and forth, and then you asked a question, should the bill pass or not, that to me would be a more random sample. And I have no idea. It might be 78%. I don't think it would be. I mean, I have a resolution from my town council unanimously in opposition to the school bill.
Right, but that's only one of two cities that we know of that have done that. And
Yeah.
Most of the others have passed the resolutions. Last year was 25, and
Right, but
we're on track for that. this
My
year.
point is with this sample and with any other polling or questions, how you ask the questions, what questions you ask is obviously very important to the results you're
Well, I
going to
think
get. It's just
I understand what
polling
you're saying. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some, I mean, everybody's going to look at it differently at how biased it is. I don't think that it can be argued that we're asking any questions that are not factual. And I think that really most people, when you talk to them, don't understand that people can carry guns on school property. And most people that I know
I agree. As I said earlier,
don't understand the issue. So
you may have been in that meeting as a representative. I don't remember if you were or not, but when I was told that was the case, I was surprised, and
I think I was.
I think you were there with me, right? And I was surprised and said then, I can't imagine there's any Rhode Islanders out there that think you can bring a gun to school. So, thank you for all your hard work, Representative Finn. Representative Price.
Some of these numbers also, is there a reason that they only ask these questions to women?
I know it's both men and women.
It says 0 men.
Well, because the other column is men, so there's two columns. One column is men and one column is women.
Look on page 1.
You look on page 1.
Chart, you'll see it says gender at the top. I thought the same thing when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the way it's printed out, so just a little tough to follow.
I didn't really do a very good job printing it out. It's not my forte.
Page 1 on...
Page 1.
And then a total. And then when you go to this page...
Well, we can work on printing it out so it's a little easier
Okay,
to
yeah, and
understand.
I'll try to see if I can get a better copy. And
Sure.
Certainly can answer any questions that you have or ask the pollster to answer any questions as well. But I will find out about the number, the difference between the 400 and the 605.
Okay, any further questions for Representative Finn? Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.